On this episode, we're talking about Wisephone, a phone to help you disconnect and stay pure.
You're listening to the Dudes and Dads Podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMott and Andy Lehman.
Welcome to the Dudes and Dads Podcast. It's me, Joel, alongside my good friend, Andy Lehman. Little known fact about Andy, he was the 2020 national champion for chicken sexing. Yeah.
I can't even.
Yeah. People don't... Andy, I don't know why you've kept this under wraps.
For one, that sounds really dirty.
It's not dirty at all. It's
I know what it is.
You know what it is, so that makes it. It's entirely plausible that you indeed.
I do own chickens, but I have never sexed a chicken.
You've never sexed a chicken?
No, which, by the way, that's trying to determine the sex of a chicken.
Correct, absolutely. Which is a vital. It's a vital thing. It's an important
you don't.
thing.
If you're looking for hens, you don't want to get a rooster.
That seems that what you've just said there, I think applies to so many things in life. You could just say, like, that'd be like hey, if you're looking for a hen, you don't want a rooster. Like, you could apply that to, so many
That's
things.
the soundbite of this episode.
That's it. Hey, it's like my grandpappy always used to say, if you're looking for a hen, you don't want a rooster.
Anyway, so
it's like grandpa. We're going to keep on saying it's like grandpa always said.
Grandpappy.
Speaking of other things my grandfather never said, he never said, you know what? I could really use a phone that doesn't do the things that I normally think phones do. Is that no? He's never said that.
He's never said that, but
dude, last episode, Andy, we're talking about self-care. We're talking about some specific practices, and one of those things is, well, disconnecting from technology in intentional ways. And it's interesting because we had someone actually reach out to us here on the show, because this is how big time we're getting. Big time. People are contacting us and saying, we'd like to talk about our stuff. And we go, absolutely, as long as it doesn't suck.
And it doesn't.
It doesn't suck.
I had a long, lengthy conversation with the owner of this company. The company is called Techless. They created a phone. It's a smartphone that's not some. I say smartphone because it's not like a foldable flip phone or like doesn't have keypads but no like display. It actually has a display on it. It looks like a smartphone, so kids aren't embarrassed to use it.
Right.
But it is. It's a dumbed down phone. I mean, that's what I'm going to say. It allows you to make calls, it allows you to do text, and it allows you to do a few other things. You'll have to listen to the interview, but
yeah,
it's a great idea, and I really like their philosophy and the reason for creating the phone.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, and I think other listeners would share this. Like, as a parent, we're getting, like, I'm going to have a middle schooler. Oh, Jiminy. I'm going to have a middle schooler this coming school year. And given some of the things he's going to be involved with extracurricular wise and all that, like, it's kind of like,
you want him to be able to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
But you don't want him to get a hold of the things he shouldn't be getting a hold of.
Yeah. I don't want to give the dude a smartphone. Like, that's just all there is to it.
But he's not going to want a analog phone. I mean,
or a Cricket.
Right. Analog phone. He's not going to want to dial the rotary.
Rotary
on the phone.
Wouldn't that be hilarious? You know what? That would be fantastic. That'd be the best. That'd be the best punishment for any middle school kid ever.
Like a rotary phone they have to use.
Right.
They'd be like, "What is this? I don't even know what this is."
And if you have a lot of nines in your phone, that's even worse because they've got to go all the way around.
Yep, all the way around.
For those of you that are under I don't know what age, you have no idea what we're talking about, the rotary. But
I've used one.
Yeah, Google it, rotary phone. It's it's a thing.
Well, before we get into this interview, I just want to apologize a little bit for the audio quality. My audio was a little bit for myself. I recorded it at home. I didn't record it in the studio, so it's not quite the studio quality from myself. So bear with me, though. It's really good content. So
Andy said his levels were a little hot.
They were.
Which is what his wife says all the time too. See what I did there?
Well,
yes. No, but listen in, because certainly this conversation, I think, can just be a little bit informative. It can be, I mean, we just want to, here at the show, want to offer resources that we think are going to be a good fit for some families. And I know that I'm like, this is something that I'm considering as well, because it's like, want to give my kid a good resource, want to not give him a rotary phone that he has to carry around in his pocket. But at the same time, we just want to be smart. We want to be smart with what we're putting in our kids' hands.
Yep,
so
absolutely. So here we go. So on tonight's episode, we're going to talk with Chris. Chris is the founder of Techless, an innovative tech startup that created Wisephone, a pure and simple phone for intentional people. Chris is an entrepreneur. He started several different companies. And he's also wants to be remembered as a fun dad and loving husband. So welcome to our show, Chris.
Yeah, Andy, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so normally we start a little bit with the dad stats. So just tell me a little bit about who you are as a dad, as a husband. Tell me those things.
Yeah, I love it. Dad stats. It's a good phrase there. So I have been married now for 7 years. My wife and I have we struggle with infertility. So then we did foster care for a while. We've had 7 kids come and go in our house. And then since then, through just a miracle, basically, we've had 3 daughters and the 4th one's on the way.
Awesome.
So I've had a handful of kids.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about this tech startup that you've got going right now, the Techless. What is it? How did you start it?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, Techless, we create a phone, a very simple, pure phone for digital minimalists, but also for intentional people that want to live free of addictions, distractions, social media, whatever that looks like, that your phone oftentimes just reaches out and grabs you. We made a distraction-free device. And the concept came from actually our foster care journey, amongst other things, of course, but our foster care journey, we had a 10 and 13-year-old sisters come. They were dropped off at our house, and the caseworker said, "Hey, don't let these girls near anything that looks like a smartphone." And we're kind of in a conundrum because, if anyone's done foster care or adoptive care, or you have a new kid in your house, the first thing you want to do is give them as much freedom as possible. And here we were tasked with taking away something that was just almost their identity.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to be those jerk parents. So we were just like, okay, what do we do? What do we do to empower them and give them something we can trust? And we finally found that Amazon Alexa was a really cool device because it's this non-visual interface with the internet. And the stuff they got in trouble with in the past all was connected to the visual side of the internet. And so that kind of got our wheels churning, that device level design restrictions are a really good thing. And especially for parents. And right now, in the smartphone universe, you can always set incremental restrictions, but nothing starts from a more locked down, safe space. And then we wanted to kind of start on the other end of the continuum and work our way towards sophisticated and complex, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Yeah, I know, I work in technology myself. So, I know as firewalls, we set our firewalls up to block everything, and then we allow things through. And I think that what you're saying is the same thing. Start with a phone that blocks, it has nothing on it, and build onto that. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's exactly what we're doing. We're starting with and as time goes on, our phone will become more feature rich, as we can guarantee that this next feature isn't going to introduce something addictive, something dangerous. And so we're being careful, just like you are with your firewall. Yeah. You're adding things as a green list or a white list that this is good. Okay, we'll release these things. And that's how we're developing our product.
Awesome. How do you go about deciding what to release on your phone? Actually, let's start with this before you even ask that question. So what features does the Wisephone have currently? Like, what if I were to purchase a Wisephone right now, what would I see? What would be on it?
Yeah, so it looks like a smartphone. It is a smartphone, but the operating software is totally different than anything you've seen before. It's very clean, simple, minimal, very Apple-esque, I guess, but 2 colors, heavy typography based, and the phone itself does just a few basic things. You can call, you can text, there's maps, a camera, some basic tools like calculator, and that's it. There's no social media, no app store, nothing you can get addicted to, no solo entertainment, we call it, that can suck you in. And so really you just don't use it that much. It's a practical tool to stay in touch and hopefully push people to the highest form of communication available.
Which is, obviously what our phone was originally designed for was communication, face-to-face, or not face-to-face, but that where you're interactive, not just scrolling through social media. So how do you, going back to that question that I had before, how do you decide what features are good? Like, how do you go about deciding what's going to become addictive and not? Because, I mean, obviously text messaging itself could become addictive. Sure.
Yeah. And you got to draw the line somewhere. And it's a hard line, and everyone argues about it. And I'm in the middle of it. I mean, there's an article that came out that's just iconic. The Verge came out, and the title was "There's no perfect minimalist phone yet." And if it was up to me, I think I might change that "yet" to the word "ever." There's no perfect minimalist phone ever, because nothing can ever meet someone's expectations. So we just have to draw a line somewhere. And so we're very intentional about that line. There's some requests that come in that are obvious no. There's requests that come in from users that we wrestle with. Mm-hmm. There's some that are just very difficult to do, and so we haven't done them yet. But I think one of the big things is, we listen to user feedback that helps feed our design process. We also have our core company vision that feeds our design process. But then I think the most important part of what we do is we have a filter of what makes it through into the build. And that filter is really unique to Techless. And we ask ourselves some critical questions that big tech doesn't typically ask. And we ask, is it addictive? Does this improve and deepen relationships with yourself, with other people and with God, or does this distract from them? And whichever, that's kind of the number one thing that we really look at is, does this help relationships or not? And then we have a series of other smaller questions, but there's kind of a theological philosophy that we built this filter on, and we're still tweaking it here. This is our human algorithm, I guess, of what goes into that.
Sure. So with other smartphones, Apple, Android, there are parental controls to be able to limit what can be put on there. If I don't give my kids the password to the App Store, they can't get social media. So what makes your phone different than an Apple phone? Like, why not just use an Apple phone and not install apps?
Yeah, it's a great question. So early on, market research, we just found out that at the end of the day, Apple and Google actually don't really care about this. They kind of care, kind of like McDonald's offers healthy choices, but at the end of the day, they want you to buy a hamburger.
Right.
And so, so as a result, those controls are kind of semi-effective, or they're not watertight. And a couple classic examples that just let you know, here's the thing that parents are facing. It's a 20-step process to lock down a phone. Google it. How do I lock down my iPhone? And here's the 14 steps to do it. And it changed every software update. I had in the testing phase, I had a lockdown iPhone that was extremely restrictive. There were tons of restrictions on it. And a software update came from Apple, and, they pushed a couple new apps and everything. Well, there's a news app. So I click on the news app that just got pushed to my phone. I didn't ask for it. It wasn't there the night before. I'm scrolling the news app, and the 12th article down has a featured image of a nude person. And I'm like, holy smokes, man. I didn't ask for this. And it just fell in my lap. And there's other apps, like there's a calculator app out there that's approved on the App Store that looks like a calculator that mom and dad can look at and type in an equation, and it works. And then if you type in a special equation, then it opens up a browser and a hidden file folder. That's the kind of stuff that just exists, and we're just nipping it in the bud and making just error-proof, watertight. There's no way around it. That's what we're going for. So
that's very, very cool. So have you given your kids the phone? Do your kids use it?
Well, my oldest is 5 now, so we're not quite in the phone age. Sure. But I wouldn't have any hesitations them goofing around. The worst they could do is call a bunch of people. So.
Which, it's a funny story. My youngest daughter is she was just messing on my iPad the other day, took a video of herself and accidentally texted it to someone in my contact list. And I was like, hey, sorry, my daughter had and I was sitting right here when she did it. So she had no malicious, she didn't do it on purpose. She wasn't trying to do anything, but I was sitting here with her, and she's still got into issues with that. So yeah, kids find things and do things that they want to do.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, when my daughters are the right age, no hesitation.
Sure.
Just like we just started giving them an allowance, and it's like, here's a quarter, or here's 25 cents, here's 5 cents for the church jar, 5 cents for a friend, to bless them, and then you get to keep 10 cents, that type of game. It's sort of the same thing for technology. It's like, here's a starting point that's a really healthy exercise to start engaging in this dialogue, start your brain going on what's good and what's not. That's kind of what we designed this to be.
Yeah, that's definitely very cool. And I like the idea of trying to train your kids what is good and what's not, because just restricting the phone and handing them a phone and not really kind of using it as a babysitter is not a good option. And if they want to find, pornography or other things, they're gonna find it. They're gonna see it. So I think what you said there is crucial. We need to teach our kids to not only not do it just because there's a lock on our phone, but don't do it because it's not good for us.
Yeah, at the end of the day, what we want to really do is start working on, right now we have an MVP product, but we want to start diving into the character of what's going on here and really do whatever we can from a technologist perspective to help build that type of character, help kids struggle with the right things and not with the wrong things. It's horrible for a kid to be exposed to pornography early, but it's not so bad for them to figure out how to navigate relationships with friends early on that might have other phones, et cetera. So
sure. Yeah, definitely. So tell me about the phone itself. If I wanted to go out and buy one of these phones, first, where do I get it, and what are my options?
Yeah, so it's real straightforward. You go to techless.com. That's techless.com. That's our website. Lots of information there. It's a fairly complicated product, in the sense that people spend 10 and a half minutes scouring our website. That's our average user time, and like a minute and a half is kind of industry standard. So there's a lot of information there, but we have 3 models. The least expensive is $199. The next one is $299, and then $799. And the highest price model is really for, I would think, a lot of people listening to this podcast that might be working adults, functioning parents, whatever that looks like, that just want to take a stance for purity in their own life. And they have a nicer camera. The hardware's solid, but also, the $199 model is more for kids. You can drop in the toilet. It's not the end of the world. And there's one other piece to this product that's pretty unique to Techless is we sell the phone, and it includes a 1-year subscription to what we call the family portal, which is insight into everything that's going on to the device. So there's a couple other minimalist phones out there. They're just a phone. Ours has a back end. You can log in, check at the app, check the website, whatever it looks like, and you can actually see message, call logs, location history, and have insight into what's going on.
Sure. So as a parent, I could go back in there and I can see everything, chat, text, messages. That's really cool.
It's kind of the anti-incognito mode. Basically, we believe in transparency and open relationship and open dialogue, and that's how we're promoting it.
That's very cool. I like that idea because, like you're saying, I can get a phone that doesn't have a screen on it. It's an old school, just text and things like that, which is actually really hard to find these days. I've heard people who have tried to go out and find a dumb phone and they can't do it. So it sounds like your phone is a great compromise between that dumb phone where all I can do is call and text to something that's a smartphone, but not a full-fledged smartphone.
Yeah, and I'll just say the dumb phone that just calls and texts, let me know. I'm looking at phones every day. If you find that one, let me know.
Yeah.
But there are flip phones out there. But the catch with flip phones is they're actually the most vulnerable because unlike smartphones where you have a shot at locking it down, these things have no restrictions. Most of them are internet enabled. So they're actually and they're a pain to use. Kids don't really love walking around and they kind of hide when they flip it open and talk.
No one wants to see it if you see one of those. Yeah, that's definitely cool. So do you find that what percentage would you say of your users are kids and what are parents?
Yeah, so almost straight up half and half. And we kind of got 3 groups here. We've got kids, it's about half of them.
Sure.
And then the other half is split between what I would call digital minimalists. And these are kind of the hipster crowd that just are like, no FOMO, I'm not missing out. I'm deleting all my social accounts and I'm just living my life in person. Mm-hmm. That's kind of one crowd. And then there's a group of men that are very intentional, very, do whatever it takes to live a pure life, want transparency and accountability. And they're anywhere from age 30 to 65.
Sure.
There's the older into that, there's a bunch of people that resonate, and I hadn't quite figured out why yet, but there's like this weird group of 55 to 65-year-old men that just really enjoy this. So,
well, and I wonder if part of that is too, just to kind of keep themselves pure, as well as like not having to keep up with the technology. I know my grandparents just got a smartphone themselves, and it's a struggle to try to teach them how to use it because there's just so much going on. And so I would guess that that's probably a good reason that people want to use it too.
Yeah, it's simple. I guess your email doesn't bug you in your pocket. So you just go check your email on your computer and it's not constantly barraging you.
Right. And that's good too, because I know how many times I've been on Facebook and scrolled, or my email and scrolled, and finally realized, what am I doing? I'm still just scrolling and I'm not being here present with my family. So I really do appreciate a phone like that where you could just say, I can't do anything like that on here just for contacting, and that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the founder of Techless, and I did a 14-day Techless challenge where the first 14 days where I wasn't using a smartphone, and I found my hand in this position, like just randomly. I was like, what the heck? My hand is like memorized how to hold a phone and scroll, but I couldn't. There was nothing to scroll, so it's built in for me. Sure. So it's there, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So as a parent yourself, what are some other policies that you have set? I mean, obviously your kids are young right now, but what have you set, or do you envision setting like at home? Because obviously kids can have other devices. They have school devices like that. So is there any policies that you've set at home that, or would recommend setting at home, that would complement the phone?
Yeah, so my wife and I try to be intentional. I mean, we have a kind of a book that we've written for ourselves, just guidelines of things. We celebrate birthdays in this way. We do milestones when they turn 16 and whatever that looks like. And so when it comes to technology, we have done a few things. I mean, right now it's just no screen time ever, no matter what, period. And that's like FDA certified. Like that's like obvious. Don't let a kid under 2 even look at a screen. Yeah. Brain, and that's been proven. So that's kind of our current policy. But in the future, our goal, and I hope that your listeners hear this, it's not control or restriction. It's actually the opposite. It's freedom. Sure. And so our underlying philosophy is, what can we do to give them maximum trust and maximum freedom by the time they leave the house? 18. So we're kind of looking at the timeline between 0 and 18, 0 full dependence on us. We don't feed them, they die, to 18, they're on their own. And sure. We are a mentor resource for them. And what can we do? And so it's just this incremental, intentional release of control and giving of higher trust and allowing them to stumble in the right ways. It's like, here's a go-kart so you can crash into a tree, so that you don't do it on the highway going 100 miles an hour and kill yourself. That's Absolutely. That's how we're looking at it all.
Awesome. Back to the phone. So what service providers does your phone work with? Can I take it to any service provider, or how does that work?
Yeah. So the upper 2 models work with any carrier, with a couple exceptions. We have a compatibility checker on our website, but AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, those guys. The lowest model, Verizon, it's not compatible with, but the simplest way to just know for sure, go on our website, check out the compatibility checker, and you're good to go. But there's a 95% chance we're compatible with you.
That's
your carrier.
Very cool. So your back end, does that cost anything for like the reporting side, or is that included in the phone, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the family portal does have a cost to us. Okay. And so, there's API calls, and we're looking at some pretty fancy smancy algorithms in the future that are going to be image-based porn detection, things like that, to allow advanced functionality. And so we're giving you a year of the Techless family portal just included, so you don't have to worry about it for a year. After that, after a year, if you want to use your phone as a phone, it's still fine. It's not getting shut off or anything. It's still going to work. But if you want to continue with this value-added service, the stuff that costs us money, the reporting, then it's $99 a year.
Which is a great deal. I mean, that's awesome. Now, would that include, if I have, let's say, 3 kids and 3 phones, is that one back end $199 a year, or is that one for each phone?
Right now it's per device. Okay. is the way we're doing it. And we thought about that long and hard, and we kind of just found out that most people kind of want 2 devices or max. That's sort of a family. That was 98% of the people. And so that's where we're at.
That's very cool. I'm really excited about this. I didn't know anything about your company. How long have you guys been around?
So we started almost 2 years ago, and it was just me when we started. And now we're probably up to like 15 people, including developers and such. And we actually launched the product about 4 months ago.
Okay.
So very fresh product still. I mean, we're constantly pushing updates, and we're right in the middle of redefining what's the next level of features that we're going to release. And so we're in the middle of that discussion, which is always exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And I like a phone company, or like any company that's going to be able to keep pushing updates, because that's one of the things about a dumb phone. You can't get updates to that and new features and things like that. So I do like the way that your phone is set up, that you guys can push stuff out to it. You guys are doing feature updates. It's a cool product.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being on our show too here, but is there anything else before I let you go that you'd like to tell us that I missed? I want you to be able to plug your product, but if I've missed anything, go ahead and let us know.
I think you've sold the product. I don't need to say anything. I mean, and I would just end on this note, like, technology is one of those things that we are just now starting to become intentional about. And if you think about how much it's changed our lives, I mean, I'm trying to think who said this. Abraham Lincoln had more in common with Moses, like thousands of years previously, than he does have in common with us, and so just the world has changed so much. And I think that we're starting to catch up, documentaries like The Social Dilemma, we're starting to question the assumptions of our technology, but just like you are intentional with your diet, with raising kids, with money, think about technology as well. And I can talk for hours on the research. I'll spare you all that, but just, this is something to really think through. And if you want any help, we're here for you guys. So just reach out. We'll be happy to help in any way.
That's very cool. And if any of our listeners want to get a hold of you, what's the best way, if they have questions, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah. So you can always email us, hi@techless.com. We respond pretty quickly. That's the easiest way, but also the website has lots of information, but absolutely love to hear from you guys. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks again for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a blessing. Thank you.
Okay. Well, what do you think, Andy?
I think that it's a great phone, and I myself have been trying to use my smartphone less. In fact, I just gave my daughter the permission to call me out when she sees me using it, because it was one of those things where I walked in and got frustrated. Everyone was on their phones, and I was like, "You don't need to be on your phones." And she's like, "Yeah, you too."
Yo.
And I'm like, "All right.
Okay.
You can have permission to call me out on that." So
Fair.
She has.
Fair.
So
okay. Yes.
So this would help that.
And
for both adults, who want to disconnect, they want to have a simpler life. They don't want to be checking their phones the whole time.
Yep.
Don't want to run to it every time it dings, as well as, as a good way to stay pure from the porn and things that you shouldn't see.
Well, right. And if especially, sometimes if you're at that place, where, we all try to, if there are struggles in that area, particularly, as I mentioned to you, I think it's like, it's 66% of all pornographic sites are reached mobily now
and I believe that phone, yeah,
which is way easier, right? Like, it's just you can be
shady about it,
right? Exactly. As opposed to having like, look, I'm taking this laptop over here with me.
Yeah.
So that's, I think it's just something to consider, and again, it is something, without being fearful, just being wise. It is something that, with my own children, it's just like it is hard to keep track of where they are and what they are doing. But if there's a built-in system of accountability, that's just going to help all of us, guys. So maybe that's a stage that you're at. Maybe you're in a place of recovery from some addiction things. Help yourself out.
Yeah, definitely.
It's entirely appropriate.
We want to thank Techless for reaching out to us and getting a hold of us and letting us do this interview with them. So thanks, guys at Techless. We appreciate you.
Well, guys, we have another request. As we mentioned last time, and again, just want to say thank you for all of those who have been checking in, helping out with this. We just want to continue to reach out and remind you that Andy is flying a spaceship here at the Dudes and Dads podcast, and by spaceship I mean, if you were to see across the console here, there's various screens and dials and all these things that he is managing while producing this show and being a co-host. Listen, I'm just the pretty face on the other side of the microphone. I sit here, I occasionally look at a computer screen and talk to you all the rest of the time. Meanwhile, Andy,
I have an iPad, a computer, a mixer board,
all the things. And but we feel as though we're at a stage now where there's a piece of technology that would improve the show's production a little bit, or a lot of bit.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of bit, and would delay Andy's inevitable carpal tunnel surgery by a few years. That would help him out significantly. So, Andy, tell us.
Yeah,
tell
so
us more.
it is, if you've not heard it from our last podcast, it is a physical button system, 15 buttons that I can program to switch my sources on my video. So I don't need to look down, because currently I'm looking down every time I need to make a screen change on our video.
Right.
And then I'm moving the mouse.
And when we have a guest on, they feel really distant from Andy
because I'm looking at other things.
Because of his lack of eye contact, which
Right.
I get, because I felt personally offended by it initially as well. So let's, again, and we're just concerned ultimately that one of these days Andy's going to take his eyes away from something important, and then, I don't know, just
the spaceship will crash.
The spaceship will crash.
So
That's
if
it.
you would like to help out with our endeavor in getting this this 15 button thing, you can go to dudesanddadspodcast.com/spaceship, and there will be a picture of what we're hoping to buy and a PayPal donation.
So for all of you nerdy types that want to see what the technology is here
that we're adding to our spaceship,
you'll be able to see it right there. But guys, as we've always said, we're just running a simple shop here, right? But we appreciate any help that you can provide to help us make the experience better. So, guys, thanks for listening in this time. Thanks for your continued feedback and support. Yet again, we're at dudesanddadspodcast.com. If you want to shoot us an email, you can over at dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com. So do all those things.
all of them.
All of them. Love to hear your feedback. So until next time, my good, faithful listeners,
Grace
and peace.